Okay. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Another episode of TNT Weekly. I think I'm up to episode 29 now. That's just amazing for me. It's going to be a great show today. Very excited about my guest. But first of all, I want to thank the Gibson Center so much for allowing me to tape here. It's been a great venue for me. Got to support the arts and culture in our community. They got some great events coming up. They have till December 19th, the seasonal market. Beautiful. Some great vendors up there. Check out their website and see who's on. But these artists are just fantastic. And guess who's in town December 12th? Guess.
Who?
Santa.
Oh,
Santa's in town December
Excellent.
12th. You got to book this up, lock it up. It's just awesome. So really great stuff here at the Gibson Center. And remember, a community without the arts and culture is just, it's nothing. There's nothing there. Nothing there at all. Awesome. Another shout out to the town of New Tech. I just read last week, a week and a half ago, that through their council meetings, they're supporting some services in need during this really, really crucial time of COVID. And they are supporting and bumping up some funding for the Gibson Center. So thank you, Town of New Tech. Thank you also for supporting the Out of Coal, Alliston's Out of the Coal program. I had them on the show a few episodes ago. New Tech stepped up to the plate. Thank you, councillors and mayor. I got the right shirt on here, look. We the further north. We the further north. That said, New Tech rocks. On to the show now. This gentleman, I'm telling you, is not the typical politician, okay? This gentleman I met some time ago, absolutely phenomenal. Not surprised in his position right now, in his career path into politics. Mr. Terry Dowdall, the MP for Simcoe Grey, I have with me today. How you doing, Terry?
I am doing well, and I want to thank you so much for having me on your show today.
My privilege. Thank you very much. I'm just going to read a little bit about this gentleman's career path into politics. He has 18 years of municipal experience serving the township of Essa in the roles of mayor, deputy mayor, and council. He served as Simcoe County Councillor for 15 years, from 2003 to 2018. He was elected in 2014 and in 2016 as the county's deputy warden. Additionally, he has served 3 terms on the board of directors for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, an organization voicing the concerns of municipalities nationally since 1901. And I'll just tell you a personal story. In my journey into Alliston, and when I started the Mill Pond project in Alliston, I was just driving out. I was at Baxter and number 10, and there was a convenience store there in the corner, and I don't know what, I came in for something, and I journeyed in, and there's a few tables of some older gentlemen and chatting and having coffee. And a gentleman behind the counter with a baseball cap on introduced himself, said, "Hi, how you doing? What's your name?" I gave him my name. He said, "What do you do?" So I just moved in Alliston, and I have a project going on, Mill Pond Medical Center in Alliston. I don't know if you heard about it. He said, yeah, I kind of heard about it. And says, "Hi, I'm Terry Dowdall, the mayor of Essa. Could you bring in doctors into Essa? Maybe we could look at that one day." And here we are, so nonchalant, down to earth. He's a businessman by heart. He knows that mechanics of what community and small business needs. And how ironic that years later we cross paths as you as the mayor in Essa, and he is really, really on the lead and responsible for bringing medical services into the community of Essa, along with the councillors at that time. So thank you very much, Terry. But listen, I'm going to lead it off with your intro, and as I do with all my guests, a little bit about Terry Dowdall and what brought you to this community, and we'll definitely get into the journey of politics. But you, for those who don't know you, who is Terry Dowdall?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you once again for having me on the show, Antonio. And I remember that day very well when I had the opportunity to meet you. And so thankful because we've certainly helped so many people in the community because of you. You had a great business plan to bring to our community. So I was, I'm blessed that you showed up that day. And it's amazing how things can happen over time. And I also want to talk to you at the beginning of your opening your show that it's more important now than ever because of COVID that people out there are supporting those programs that you've talked about here at the Gibson Center. Those programs, those non-for-profits. So especially during December this time, and same for small local businesses that are out there, this is the toughest time of year. So I just hope that everyone who's watching this will do their part and certainly help them, because you are right, without all these organizations that are around here to help our community, what would we have?
It's a tough time.
Tough time. So Terry Dowdall, I was originally born actually in Kitchener-Waterloo, and I had a sales job, and to be honest with you, what brought me up this way is I had a cottage up in the Parry Sound area, so we would drive by, and I always said to myself, I didn't like the drive. It was pretty far to come up in that, and I thought it'd be nice to get closer. So I actually got a sales position up near Newmarket, and from there I moved to Baxter. Well, I lived in Barrie originally. This is about 30 years ago, actually. And there was a building for sale in Baxter where you saw me, and had a store in it at one time that closed down, an empty building, and decided to buy it. So we purchased the property. I had a partner at that particular time, and we bought the property and opened up a variety store. I didn't think I would open up a general store on the corner there. Best thing I ever did, though, I think, next to getting married, of course, because it just allowed me an opportunity to see so many people in a day and get to know the community. That general store, people would come in all the time. A lot of the people would, they would be going to the Wasaga Beach. They would be coming home. They could work from Honda, going back to Angus. So I got to meet everyone, because they would stop in for a bag of milk or movies or anything that you might need. It really allowed me the opportunity to get to know them. So the day you came in, I knew over time you get to know all your customers. This is somebody new. So that's why I was curious at the time. But it really afforded me the opportunity to get to know people. And from there, that is really how this all sprung about. And I love the area. This is a beautiful area. So I still have a cottage up just past Parry Sound. So I'm closer now. That was my dream, and it happened, thankfully. But I just love the area. This area is phenomenal. There's so many things here. Like, we have great farming community. We have, we're not that far if you need to go to the airport, but we're far enough from Toronto that, and especially now during the COVID outbreak, our house prices here are going through the roof. Everyone wants to come here. We have water that's close by. We have ski hills up not that far if you want to go to the mountains. So the whole area here is fantastic, and to you as well. Now that we're getting a few more medical clinics, those are the things that people are asking for, that I don't know why anyone would want to live anywhere else, quite frankly.
I'm not trying to spread the word too much.
Well,
I don't want it to turn into a city, but I have to promote this community. It's amazing.
It is incredible. It's still, people are friendly. It's really nice. I go to Ottawa, as you know, I'm there 28 weeks, 30 weeks a year. Great city, don't get me wrong. As cities go, fantastic.
I grew up there.
Beautiful, clean, nice city. But you know what? It's just a total different feeling. Here, the people are, they're helpful. The community spirit is phenomenal when you're trying to fundraise for somebody. If someone's down in their luck, out in their luck, somebody's, needs a wheelchair, for instance, or cancer, or just so many things. The community it comes together, and it's one of the safest communities in Canada too, as well. So there's a lot of reasons to move and to live, certainly.
Top four in the Plains, right?
There's a lot of reasons to come here, and we got Honda Canada. We got a large manufacturing, and we continue to grow and attract jobs. We need to attract more high tech jobs here, but that will come over time. But it's an absolutely beautiful area. Like, you could just spend the day. One of my hobbies is I have a motorcycle. I can just drive around the area. When you look at the riding of Simcoe Grey, and you can go from here and head over like to Creemore and just go onto the hills of Blue Mountain. Just phenomenal. Just gorgeous area.
Gorgeous area. Thank you for that, Terry. And your journey into politics now as an MP, congratulations on that. And I know you've kept your sort of agenda very, very close to home for Simcoe Grey. And looking into a bit of what you're passionate about, I was really taken back by your love of the base and our armed forces and the veterans and Borden, and one of the priorities that I know you're canvassing very hard for is the care of those with mental health issues. And mental health, it's it's debilitating, and spans across in many sectors and demographics, etc. But you're focusing on the base. I heard, I saw some of your tapes and videos in response to ministers on that subject, and I was shocked by the amount of suicides in comparables to previous years.
Yes.
I don't know if this is COVID related or what it is, but can you update our listeners a little bit about your passion in this area and how you want to care for our armed forces and veterans more than what's been happening now from our government?
Okay, I really appreciate that question, and I've always had a close relationship with the base, being the past mayor of ESSA, that they're within the boundaries of base. Agilitas is a small percentage. I want to give them a shout out as well.
Yeah.
But we've worked together closely through the years, whether it was getting a bus service for them because people are stranded there, and that's a lot of those individuals end up moving to our area because they love it here. So they transition as they have their military career, and then when they're done, a lot of them are choosing our area here because they love it like you and I do.
Yes.
So there's a national strategy that the Liberal government brought up in 2017, which I thought was a good idea. So I can give a shout out to the Liberals, which
You won't get
lots, but I will give a shout out.
Not the typical I told you.
So I think it was a great idea. And so we are funding it. And my questions definitely to the minister and to the military is just exactly where are we? We're investing money. Are we seeing a change? Are we seeing a difference? And I've been lucky with the grassroots side, dealing with the local hospital here and Jody Levac, who I'm sure you've met many times.
Yeah, we had him on the show.
Oh, fantastic!
Incredible.
So he's brought to light some of the the tragedies that we've had when people have lost their lives. He told me one story where one really touched him when a young boy came in looking for his father, and he was like 6 or 7 years old, and his father had no longer just committed suicide. So there's some frustration, but he's been working. He brought it to light and said that maybe the base needs to look at different options to provide that service. We need a 24/7 service, so we've pushed, and especially more now than ever with COVID. Not just the military in our area. Christmas season is upon us. For many, that's the most challenging time of year.
Yeah.
A lot of loneliness. Seniors now that aren't allowed to see their kids because of this.
Yeah.
It's an extremely frustrating time. So we've been pushing. We actually did it this week in the House of Commons. One of my colleagues, a Conservative colleague, Todd Doherty from he's out west, brought forward a motion for a 988 number. So similar to 911, we are trying to implement a 988 number so that no matter where you are,
just for the base,
for all, we want this for everyone.
Okay.
So no matter what happens out there, when you're feeling down, when you're feeling out, when you feel that life's no longer worth living, that you don't phone and not get an individual that's there. So what happens now is they have some great services. So I want to say that, like there's 211, but they dispatch you to another area, and just the confusion of who do I phone at that particular moment of time.
Okay.
So if we can find a way to have one number, 988, right across Canada,
just for mental health,
just for that, a suicide, just a suicide phone line. So
Great
if anyone
idea.
thinks at that moment in time my life is not worth living, make it simple and make sure that it's manned. So we brought that forward this week, twice point blank. We actually asked the Prime Minister during question period, and he did not answer, which I was kind of frustrated. He did say they will look at options, but unfortunately, to your point, I think it's partisan because it was our idea to put it forward.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, which is the wrong thing to do. It should be. Does it make sense?
A universal.
And will it save lives? Mm-hmm. And I think quite simply the answer to that is yes. If you had that during that moment of frustration, two things: it has to be a simple number people remember, and number two is we need someone on the other end of the line. It can't go to hold.
No.
You can't. No. You know what I mean? And it has to be 24 hours a day. So now more than ever, because of COVID, we want to make sure that's out there. So we need to make sure, and that's what I brought forward. I can say that the Liberal Minister of Defence, Harjit Sajjan, did say once, and I've quoted him before, losing one life is one too many. Mm-hmm. And I agree with him wholeheartedly. Mm-hmm. But we want to make sure that we have the supports there, and we'll continue to push because, unlike an injury, as you would know in your profession working with medical, we know if someone has a broken leg, we know if they have a broken arm. You can't tell with mental illness. So
It's silent.
It's silent. So we need to make sure that two things: A, that the public understands and accepts that that is an issue that is around us all over the place.
Yeah.
And number two, we have to make it simple and do everything in our power to make sure that we have those services and help those people. Because, like I said, to hear that story of that young boy,
Yeah.
you know, and being the one to tell that young boy, it's unfortunate. You know, when they commit suicide, it just affects so many people, the whole family.
Yeah.
And certainly, from my perspective, it's one of the issues that we need to work on. And if you're going to have these strategies, I involve everyone, and let's come up with some great solutions. Let's not be partisan.
And thinking about the base and just sticking with the base and the armed forces, it just comes to thought, Terry, and you would know this. As far as budgets or bringing in services, does the armed forces, would they be able to implement something a lot quicker than going through the political channels of approvals, like them as a base with their budget, see a problem with mental health, then react on the base for their population?
My quick answer would be yes. I would think especially for the base as its own entity.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. Whether they're building or they don't follow the same provincial guidelines or anything of that nature. So if it's a priority, they can certainly move the ball quick.
Yeah.
But I think in saying that, in order to provide great service, we need to look outside the box too.
And take it across the board.
Yeah, like I think if we're really going to do it, make sure that we're there for the base, but the base is integrated in our community here. So I'm just saying we could probably do something. This is my thought, that jointly we could work together to make sure that something was manned for all of the hours. Do you know what I mean? And work together. I think that, to me, that was the process that I thought, that because a lot of them now are coming to our local hospital now if they need anything, right? So for me, if we could tie it in with those specialties, and that's why I said, like, we can't work in silos, and sometimes in government, even ministries work in, and that's the unfortunate part, that they don't really have that connection, cohesiveness, and two things come out of that. One is usually higher spending when you work in silos, and number two is lower results.
Yeah. Well, I really love that idea and that concept, 988 number. We've been, motorized to understand what 911 is.
That's right.
And panic or whatever. So you imagine immobilizing a number that is embedded in everyone's mind, 988, strictly for the purposes of mental health, strictly for the purposes of getting someone on the other line, if you feel that way. I think that's ingenious.
I think, like I said, I was disappointed this week that the Prime Minister wouldn't say yes. And like I said, I think it's partisan more than anything, but if you really care about people's lives, if you think to me, it's a no-brainer. It's just so simple to have that number at that moment in time, and it's all demographics. So that could help seniors that are lonely. Teenage kids often unfortunately get mixed up into different things. At the moment in their life, they're not sure. You hear a lot of teenage suicides. We've had quite a few actually through the years in our area here, which is so sad. Young life that are giving it up. And you know what? Maybe that one number might have saved that individual.
Yeah, I love that. Listeners, listen, not very often. I'm blessed to have our MP here on the show. Here he is opening up. Listen, you know the way it works out there. Emails, letters. If we want to push this and the listeners are really passionate about what you're talking about, Terry, what should they do?
Well, I think thank you so much. I think what they need to do is a lot of them have their own social media accounts. They follow you, obviously. Send something out. If they're in a writing, send it to your MP. Send it to all the MPs if you can, and just say how important, how big of an issue it is, and how this could possibly be one way to hopefully save some lives. So if they could reach out, I would appreciate that. Send a letter even to me in my MP office. I'm fine with that I can forward on your behalf. But if there's anyone else that's watching this that's outside of our catchment area, mail to all MPs, whether you have an NDP or perhaps a Liberal or a Green Party candidate. Mail them, let them know how important this is and how it could actually save some lives.
Yeah, first time I've heard about it. Great idea. 988 number for mental health. Love it. Great idea, Terry.
Yeah.
Another area you're very passionate about that I read up, cystic fibrosis, is very close and dear to you. Could you please elaborate?
Sure. It's actually that one was one of the newer ones that I had. It actually came about when I was knocking doors. I met a family down in Tottenham, and great guy and his wife, and they had these 3 children, and 2 of them have cystic fibrosis. And he asked me, because we were busy knocking doors, would you set up a time? I'd like to talk about cystic fibrosis with you and some of the challenges that we have. So I said sure. So another day I went down, sat at his table, and it opened my eyes to what he has to go through. He opened up his fridge and the different type of cocktails they have to have for those children. And the sad part of it is they have these drugs, new drugs that are out. And his oldest boy, I believe, is the one that he gets to take it because he's in worse condition to help him. The younger boy is taking another drug. He's not allowed to have that drug that's out there.
But it would help him.
But it would help him. You have to get to a certain degree of not being healthy in order to get the drug, which to me is crazy. So from that family, it was
An eye-opener.
the Rock family.
Oh,
they opened my eyes, and I knocked on other doors, and then I found out that they, it was tough for them, like sending their kids out, lung disease, like it's terrible. And then I met other families. So I met the Van Stones, which changed some of the rules here in Ontario because Beth's worked so hard. And then there's a fella, Finn, up in Collingwood too, and they spend most of their lives. These kids, they keep going back to the hospitals. So it's expensive for these kids to go back to the hospitals all the time, and they grow up, and if they get worse, they're not going to have a job. So then they won't be paying into the system. So we're going to lose some. So to look at from a hard perspective, we should have these drugs for these individuals to make sure that they're healthy. Like if that was my child, like it touched me. I'm like touch wood. I have 2 daughters, both healthy.
Yeah.
Touch wood.
God bless. Yeah.
But yeah, seeing them and what they have to go through, and then constantly worried that they're going to be back going into hospitals. They're down there all the time. Any parent would say, why would you wait for things to get worse? Let's make these drugs, and then they carry on with a somewhat normal life. So to me, again, it was a no-brainer. Is there a cost? Certainly is there a cost. So as a conservative, sometimes you think about the cost aspect of things because there's always the economy. But by not giving those individuals, they will actually become part of the system as they're later because they can't work, or we're going to have to pay them to not work, as opposed to being, contributing to society and going out to be able to work and be taxed on what they do.
Yeah.
So there's the hard side, and there's the financial side. So between the both, you hope that the governments would get it. So we've been pushing adamantly the provincial government and certainly the federal government to change the rules and the regulations. It looks like it's coming forward, which is good. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things I want to have when it's all said and done. It's one of those issues that I want to say it's something we don't have to worry about. You don't have to think about, and you know what? Your kids have a good opportunity to live a normal life, and I think that should be a no-brainer.
Yeah. No, I agree. High-speed internet. I ran into that, and I did it. I never thought of that. Right? I just never thought of that, especially now with this onset of COVID and how the patterns have changed for companies and businesses and even government on how people are working and working from home now, etc. I never thought about that need for rural high speed because how's it going to work? Yeah. Right? Like, don't forget about us. So, you were pretty passionate on that subject, and it has to be escalated. There's a need for it. It has to happen right away, and it makes total sense because I think this pivot into home office, mobile work modes is going to stick around to some extent. On a post-COVID scenario, fine. I believe it's going to still have its presence. I mean, how do you see the element of high-speed internet hitting our rural areas in a prompt manner to at least fit in parallel with what's happening right now in this post-COVID world?
Well, I would first begin by saying that the importance of high-speed internet, it is an infrastructure as important now as your roadways. and your bridges. It has come to that nowadays because that everything it needs that, and more now. Like to your point with COVID, I agree with you. I think it'll probably continue like this even post-COVID. I think it's changed the way people are working. And I can tell you, local realtors have contacted me, many as a matter of fact, and when they're selling a house, one of the key questions now in the sale of the house, so it does affect the sale, how is the internet? What is the speed?
So true.
So it is so big, and there's so many people that want to live up here now. So during COVID, more than ever, we've learned that we don't have great high-speed internet throughout Simcoe Grey, definitely this area too. Like if we're just in this catchment area here, or new to Tecumseh, everywhere certainly there's pockets that are absolutely terrible. And there's pockets where the cost for those individuals, now that they're home from work, mom and dad are both home doing their online work, and the kids are home doing their schooling, and then the odd one screaming, the bills are astronomical. So it's a major problem. So we want to make sure that it's out there. We push the government. They're saying by 2031 everyone will be connected. We've said, and I've stood up in the House of Commons and said, that's too long. We have to find a better way. So now they've increased it to 2026, they say. It needs to be the number one priority. We found during COVID we've thrown money out pretty well everywhere, and we need to put the money to the things that are actually important and the things that will actually be important to keeping our economy going so that we continue to make money. So we're continuing to push the government to speed that out. There's the only thing I would say is that there's fundings from all different levels, and to me, looking at it, there seems to be a disconnect to your point of who's going to get it, when are they going to get it, and how it's going to roll out. That is probably the biggest part. I've heard too that there's problems sometimes that there's only so many companies that can actually do it if they do it all at once. But certainly here, when earlier in the show we were saying, like, look how close we are to Toronto. Look at the size of these communities. It's not like we're up in the Yukon. So this area here, quite frankly, in our catchment area, when we're here in Ontario and where we are, everyone should have high speed internet. So we learned that during COVID more than ever. High speed is important with schooling. I don't know what's going to happen there over a period of time. Definitely more use for that, and we've learned that through COVID how important it is. And the other thing that we've learned through COVID, which I think is extremely important, is that as a country we need to make sure that there's certain product lines that we manufacture and Canadians produce. So we've had problems with PPE, as you know, that were there. And as Canadians, I know we often chase the lowest dollar to buy stuff, and that's, I think, the downfall of why we've lost a lot of industry in our area, because we always want the lowest price. But we've given up quality of product, and we've also given up quality of life for individuals. So I think what we need to do is ensure that if we have another issue at some point in time, a virus, or perhaps even, I don't want to talk bleak, but if there's ever some, China and the rest of the world isn't getting along that great, if they ever did something military-wise, or perhaps shut borders again on that, there's products out there that we have to make sure we have. Whether it's I take high blood pressure pill, which isn't a big deal. I could probably live okay with it as long as no one stressed me out, and I'd probably be fine, right? If we didn't have it. But I'm just saying, there are certain products that we should be manufacturing here in Canada, and it's twofold. Number one, we won't ever have that problem, and number two, we're going to create jobs for some people here, which is a good thing. So Canadians may have to pay a little bit more for those products, but wrapping your head around that it's better for us as Canada and better for us Canadians to make sure that we're not going to have a supply problem later on.
Totally. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Terry, on that supply chain that you had just brought up. And you know what? Remarkably, I kind of see a transition of buying locally here since COVID. I just see my mindset, is I'm buying locally here. I don't even care if it's $5 more. Or so. I am buying from my local retailers in this community. Right.
We need that, Antonio, more than ever. And I'm hoping, like I said, out of COVID, this is the worst thing, certainly in my lifetime, that we've had to live with, the frustration of individuals. But if we can draw something positive about it, like I said, the internet, and just the ability and the thought process to understand that we do need to be a little more self-sufficient.
And we're so talented.
We're
so talented.
And you know what? We're a rich country,
Yep.
rich resource country.
Yeah.
We're, like you say, technology-wise.
Absolutely.
There's no reason why we're not, other than the fact I think often there's hindrances to companies
Yeah.
to locate here, and those are the things we have to
Work
work with, certainly from a federal and a provincial perspective. That we've got cognizance of. There's a cost of doing business, and we have to make sure that because of the global world now, we have to be in line,
Yeah.
and we're not.
Yeah. No,
So
I hear
we
you.
got to change that.
Yeah, thank you. Throne speech, you were not very happy about that, and you voted against that, and inform our listeners a little bit about, how that came about and what you didn't like hearing in the throne speech.
Well, first of all, I was upset that we would have another throne speech in under a year. I'm upset that we prorogued the Parliament. So right off the hop, even before the speech, I was a little bit disappointed to that fact, because my offices here were open. We were extremely busy with COVID calls.
Yeah.
Service Canada closed. We're trying to move the ball down the field. People are having issues. Businesses are struggling. Are they getting the commercial rents? So these are all the issues we want. And the government prorogues for a couple months, so we're basically shut down. No bills get passed, no nothing, and people are scrambling. Local businesses here, I heard, for nonstop. So I was a little bit sour in the first place, even before the speech came. And then when the speech came out, I didn't hear a lot about internet for our area. I didn't hear a lot about agriculture for our farmers. I heard new ideas moving forward because of the pandemic, but I think we need to come out of the pandemic before we have any of these grandiose ideas of what society will become. Mm-hmm. I certainly am frustrated, and thoughts of more taxes on individuals at this moment in time, to me, isn't. I don't know if they live in the hill in Ottawa and don't see and go back to the ridings. I can tell you, there is a huge percentage of the population that's having a tough time because of this COVID, as you know. Stressed because they're getting payments, they don't know how long they're going to last, or they can get a job. So I don't think now is the time for a reset. I think now is the time to invest in Canada and Canadians for sure. Mm-hmm. But I like more taxes that they want to have. It's like if you buy groceries now and you go 2 bags, it's $75, $100 for 2 little bags now. Yeah. We're seeing inflation as you're going to store, the cost of it. All those items get trucked in, they get shipped in. Everything you get is going to go up in price, and unfortunately, I think, certainly for the current government, most of their seats are in Toronto, where they have transportation that's there every minute or every 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. Up here, people choose this way of life. They're driving to soccer games, or there's a drive. There's a drive to work. So you are going to continue to pay more and more and more, and I don't think that's the money just can't go to government. It has to stay in the community so these businesses survive and they boom. And there's got to be, you can't just go to work to pay bills. There has to be. That's when we get the stress and people. Yeah. Yeah. So I was just more words that really didn't mean a whole lot. Like I said, didn't help the agricultural business. Didn't help. Certainly not internet. It's just words. It's word salad. Yeah. And none of its actions. It's when I sit there, and that's the unfortunate part. And there was really no point in proroguing during like I said, during COVID. My office is never closed. I was open every day. Some seniors don't have internet, so I could have closed. There's MPs that close their offices, but they don't have internet. They don't know how to get a hold of us. So the government, during a crisis, more than anybody, in my mind, should be forefront to make sure they help. So very, very disappointed and disillusioned. We have a lot of differences, certainly conservatives and liberals into the pot. There wasn't enough about the economy. Like there was no long range goal. The liberals seem to be very, very good at the expense side of the ledger. Yeah. But there's never any discussion on the revenue side to say, okay, how are we going to pay for that side of the ledger? And even now, like all this money that we're spending, I don't know if you saw yesterday, 800,000 people are getting the CERB.
I did see that, yeah.
So there's 800,000.
Ineligible.
Yeah. 800,000. It's 1.7 billion. What could 1.7 billion do?
Yeah.
We want to make sure we support those that need to be supported,
Mhm.
but we need to question, and that's our role to question why are we giving money to certain sectors, and also how are we going to come out? What's the long range goal? And we haven't, since I've been there. This is the longest time in Canadian history. There is no budget. We have not seen a budget since I've been there, and we probably won't. We don't know when we will see a budget. We know it's bad. Everyone knows it's bad because we've spent over $400 billion to be where we are today. And the sad part is we're 8 months in. We're no further ahead, other than expense, really, for the most part. So 400, but we know it's bad. Other provinces are doing budgets. This is our government. This is the government of Canada. We should have a budget to see where we're going, and that's the concern that I have. It's the concern that the Conservative Party has. That at the end of the day, it's not about me at my age. I'm fine, Tony. I can eat craft dinner. Really, probably now to the day I die, I'll get sick of it. But I could probably do it as my age.
A lot of pasta.
A lot of pasta. That's right. That's right. That's a lot of pasta. But I worry about my daughters.
Yeah.
I do. And I just say to myself, it has to be sustainable. And I don't want. Like we're spending all their money now, and I know we're in a pandemic, and let's help those individuals. Let's help those corporations that really need it. Those local businesses, seniors. But now I can see, I give them credit at first because they got all the money out there quick. But after that, there should have been a pause and a talk to come up with a game plan to make sure that it's actually going where it's supposed to. And we're going in the hole. The budget it'll be unbelievable when it comes out. And, how are they going to get that $1.7 billion back,
Well, that safety net, listen, was imperative. I mean,
100%.
Unprecedented times.
I agree.
When a complete shutdown happened.
100%.
We never could have imagined this in our lifetime. And it really made everyone think of how delicate we are in this planet. But we know the next generations are paying for this.
100%. And they're
as you just said, at our age, I'm looking at my children, and they're going to be paying for this. We know that.
That's right.
It's not free.
That's right, and so we have to be cognizant of that. But there's issues out there too, where, as an example, there's businesses now that are out there that can't get employees back because they only work 2 or 3 days a week. That's all they wanted. They're semi-retired, which is okay. So they were getting $200 or $300, basically $100 a day. They're getting $500, and they're actually telling their employers they're not coming back till the CERB is done, which is the last day of June. Yeah. So the unemployment rate isn't realistic that we have now, because there are some jobs out there that aren't getting filled now because they are getting the $500. So that's all we're saying. I want to make sure that if you need the help, we want to get you the help. There's no doubt about that. That there's segments of society that were drastically affected by COVID. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But that being said, there are many that didn't need the money that was out there, to be honest with you. So that's what we're trying to, because it's their debt. You're 100% right. Your kids, they're going to be paying this for years and years and years. And this COVID, certainly, as you know, the news is good news that there's going to be a vaccine at some point in time. But realistically, what we're told is next December, perhaps, and probably January of the next year, is what we're hearing in Ottawa. That's the numbers we're hearing. So we're quite a ways away. And then even then, who are they going to send it to? You would think they would do it to the frontline workers. They do it for the military, of course, and also seniors. So it'll be a while before I would assume. I'm not in charge of that, so I just want to. Yeah. But during that period of time, we are going to have to make sure that we exist as a society, that we can't just hide. So for us, the key is going to be, and what we pushed as Conservatives, is we need rapid testing, quick testing. And I've used some of those that they're not, I shouldn't say that because Health Canada, I'll probably go to jail if they're watching this. But they're sold in the United States, and they're sold in the United Kingdom, and we had them here. They weren't sold; it was just a trial. Mm-hmm. And anyway, it took less than 3 minutes to get a test. It's a blood test, so I'm not sure why Health Canada is stalling it so much when they're selling millions of units in these other countries. Yeah. I can understand Health Canada when it's something you ingest and it's a chemical and whatever it might be, but we are going to have to learn to find a way to live within the environment we have. COVID's like a monster outside. We have to find a way to be out there while the monster's still there. And to me, it's rapid testing and still continuing to follow the guidelines.
Yeah.
And because we need to make sure that people are still out and about, because we talked earlier about mental health, whether it's a young kid in school, just people in general not talking to one another. We are going to have so many other issues to deal with if we continue in the format we are.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Just a question for you that just come to light now. I mean, in your status of MP and going to Ottawa and COVID sets in, do you feel, because I know for many other services, the video environment is very difficult to transcend your message, and very easy path to dodge and importance and a delay and a this and a that. You know, I'm sensing from you, and I sensed it in some of your videos, like, I guess not being in the house, and not being able to look at someone, and not being able to walk out into the alley and maybe have a conversation. I mean, that human interaction for getting things done. I'm sensing, Terry, you must be missing that.
It's totally different than the first few months I was there, and I can tell you, for us, the committees, it's not the same. Even as a new MP, they would sit beside you as a veteran MP in your group. I'm a National Defence. I'm one of the 4 representatives of the Conservatives on National Defence. You learn from those people because they're sitting beside you. Now you're sitting in your office or sitting in your house, and it doesn't seem, you lose that. It's two-dimensional, right? It doesn't have the same effect. And the other side, you hit the nail on the head, which a lot of people don't realize, is that opportunity to even talk to the other party at some point. Even though you see us in question period, it looks like we would love to go and have a gloves off boxing match. When it's all said and done, we're on committees with some of those individuals.
Yeah.
And we get to know, and I remember the one night, it was a Sunday night. I usually drive Sunday afternoon, like this Sunday I'll be going to Ottawa. I leave before it's dark because I don't want to hit a deer. There's always woods going into Ottawa when you're there, so I try and get there before dark. And I got there and I thought I wanted to go out for something to eat, and so I went out to eat, and it was kind of interesting because people think, it must be great to go there, but sometimes it's kind of a little bit quiet too, and especially COVID now, it's totally different. But so I went into this restaurant, and there's families laughing and all that, and you're by yourself. I took my little iPad with me to go in to have a bite to eat, and there was an NDP guy sitting over there all by himself. So I went over to him and said hi. I was relatively new, and the Conservative to NDP, that was probably
the two lonely politicians.
Yeah, one side to the other. So I went up to him and talked to him, and we sat down and we had dinner. We had a great talk. We just didn't talk about politics a lot, but because we definitely. But yeah, you lose that. So now when I know him now, when I see him in the halls of the House of Commons, or if I'm on a committee, or if there's, a lot of us have the same, thoughts or interests like that make us similar. Like, even though we have different parties of how you get there, we have the same concerns.
Yeah. So
that's really lost. Like you said, when you have the opportunity, I've talked to the minister, like I said, Sajan, about suicide. I got up in the middle on a break. He was waiting there. He wanted to talk to me. You don't have that, and you get zoomed out. To be honest with you, that your mind, it's not the same as going to a committee and seeing, like, even what we're doing here now. I'm glad that we're here together. Yeah. The Zoom, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same feeling, and that's you're 100% right. That and people, it's not just for me and my Conservative colleagues. It's for all of that is lost, and it's just it's you get tired of it too. To be honest with you, the other day I was on at my house from 8:30 to 8:45 at night. I had it was constant from 8:30. Watching a screen that long is just. Like I said, it's just not, and you can't see the whole page. Like, if there's, depending on, so there's. Yeah.
Well, imagine you're on with 6 people. No, I
like totally. We're on with, like, our Conservatives. There's 121 of us on. Like, every Wednesday we're on for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So there's some. It's just not the same as in the room and someone stands up and has a comment or a question. You know what I mean? And
Jerry, I could sense that.
It's night and day. And you're right. And so
in knowing you and knowing, you're so personable and so passionate. and so
It's
educated on many different subjects, life subjects. You know, you need that communication. And even if it is the opposition, I mean, it's amazing how a conversation can take you somewhere unexpectedly.
Exactly. Like a good example is cystic fibrosis. That started out, a lot of conservatives were probably, well, that kind of excited me because I just got elected, and I went there. One guy, Martin Shields from Bow River, he stood up and said, I'm going to start this committee. If anyone wants to, we want to tackle cystic fibrosis and bring an awareness to it. So I went up to him in the end, and I went on my first meeting and said, wow, I was excited. This guy's on the same wavelength as I am. And we started, and you know what? We started pushing the envelope. We worked with some of the organizations, and you know what? Some of the Liberals came on board, which is good because they're in government. We need that.
Yeah.
So some of them came on, and that's good. Like I said, so there's the similarities that we can work together and hopefully come up with a solution. At the end of the day, whoever has the idea, I don't care, as long as it makes things better. Yeah, that's what it should be.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, in politics, and I think the higher you go, the worse that sometimes is. That it's your idea, and since it's your idea, it's no good. Yeah. But if it was our idea, it would be an awesome idea. But you know, we're not in power. Yeah. So you really need to have a majority government in order to get your ideas out.
Yeah, get it on. Going ahead, I've got a listener. I reached out when I knew you were coming on the show, and a good friend of mine and a listener brought a question to the table here, and I'm going to give you that question, Terry. What is being done on condo insurance rate hikes for seniors? The increases have been over 100%, and some seniors on limited retirement incomes can't absorb such a hike in premiums passed through their condo fees. Insurance companies lump all condo corps into one category. The most claims come from high-rise condos in Toronto, and condos in Alliston pay the price for the loss even though they have been claim-free for years. Good question. That came from Kevin Marshall, one of my listeners. Thank you so much. He says there needs to be change. Terry?
I think, first of all, great question, and it's one that my office has had quite a few calls on, especially there's quite a few condos right here in Alliston area and out towards the Nottasulga end. We recognize it. I recognize it. I actually have a commercial building now that just went up. I couldn't believe the increase, and I just phoned my broker back. I'm waiting for a call. Astronomically. So I talked to another insurance agent, and unfortunately, the insurance company, a lot of them don't want certain books of business anymore. It's almost like they don't want it. And so we pushed it to Jim Wilson because it's a lot of it's provincial legislation, the insurance itself. Yeah. So Jim's brought it up. I don't know if you saw it as well. I'm going to go back to Ottawa. It's one of the things, like I said, I'm going this week. I'm getting a lot of calls in general about the increase. Like no one's getting a cost of living comparative to these insurance claims. So most of what he's talking about, unfortunately, not to pass the buck, but is provincial. In the fact that they're the ones that'll take care of that, and I know Jim Wilson's been extremely frustrated as well because senior, they're on a fixed income. You can't double your insurance and think it's not going to affect those individuals. So I'm going to bring it up to in Ottawa because not just that insurance, but insurance in general. I don't know. To be honest with you, I wish I knew the answer. No other provinces have provincial insurance. Their car insurance is a lot cheaper than it is here in Ontario. Okay. So I don't know if that's something that we can look at because to me I often get frustrated because here they're seniors and we hear governments always saying they want affordable living. Well, how can you have affordable living when that's not like they're going out for dinner and this is something you need to have. You need to have insurance. You need to have electricity. The things you need are unaffordable now. Yeah, and we have a big disconnect in government. So I'll bring it up more. I wish I could give him this is the answer on that. Yeah. Certainly, I'm sure that individual has. I'm sure gotten a hold of Jim Wilson's office as well. Kevin, talk to Jim Wilson.
Jim Wilson, Kevin, he'll get you the answer.
Yeah, Kevin, and we will definitely, like I said, when I'm not. It is an issue that I'm hearing more and more about, and the problem is more people probably. If they have to choose between food or insurance, they're going to choose food, and there's going to be people that are going to have issues or problems, and then they're going to be then there'll be a bigger problem. So we have to make sure we find a way. a major problem. So I
Super.
know about it,
Yeah.
and I can't give you. I wish I could give him the answer, but
Okay.
Definitely will bring it to light for
Superb. Another area too, I just, before we end the show, and because of the podcast, I've had the honor and the pleasure to find out a bit more of some of our wonderful organizations in our community, and as you know, I'm connected here with a lot of my colleagues, medical physicians, etc. And I had Jody Levesque on the show and Rachel Ogoruk on the show to talk about the redevelopment plans, etc. And I got to understand it a little bit more. Sometimes I feel like I'm living under a rock, but why I love this podcast so much is it's opening my eyes to how beautiful this community is and everybody in it, right, and getting to know them. The Nottawasaga Foundation with Mr. Lou Biffus and Sylvia, their support. This hospital now is in a time frame I'd say about 18 months to get that community support lump sum of money.
That's right.
Simcoe County has been in the mix there, helping them quite a bit. A lot of private support here in this community, and I believe I know the answer. I mean, I think it's a provincial matter, but you as an MP, Simcoe Grey, is there anything that you can run from the top? It all flows from the top.
Yeah.
Is there something, Terry, in that area this hospital needs support? I know you're connected to it. I know you're close to it.
I was lucky, Antonio. I was part of the county at the time. I was one of the ones that got to vote that they were getting their sum of money to start. So I was one of the individuals that was there. So this project, as you know, has been going on for a few years. To get there, and there's been a stall at the province timeline wise, and Jody's been endless, and Sylvia's unbelievable, the passion that she's had. She's
incredible.
She's reached out to me. They want to see a hospital, and the whole community does, quite frankly. And they are getting support. I know Honda Canada is another one. We hope, like I talked to Jim, as you know, Jim Wilson's not running again. His goal is to make sure that he sees the redevelopment before he's done. That's one of the things that he's always wanted, and for his sake, I certainly hope that happens. There's a couple things I brought forward before, certainly from the municipal level, and this is to the province, and I'll say this now if anyone's listening. Number one thing we should do is no matter what we build, it's going to be too small. It's always the way it goes. By the time they get the funding, you'll realize that it's too small. So there's development charges on every new house that's built, and for some reason the province doesn't allow it for hospitals. And I've said for many years, there's so many good people on these boards that are out begging people to donate to this hospital. Like it's amazing, like you say, those individuals what they want to do, people on the board, to make sure that this happens. But if you had it factored in like they do for libraries that are always part of your development charge, for your fire hall, it's part of the fee of there. And you know what? You would know then exactly the size of your community, how it's going to grow, and that each little piece of that pie would pay for it. So if you've already had a hospital here, you don't have to pay it anymore because you did your development. The only reason we need to expand it is because my neighbor next door came. So over that period of time, there would be a guaranteed amount that you could bank on to make sure that you had some money as the growth went along. So number one, that should be, in my mind, still should be the number one factor. And developers, as much as they don't want to pay more, I think a lot of them donate to the hospital eventually. They're the ones that they hit up. So it's really, this way it's just guaranteed into a number, which is good. This is where we'll be. This is when we'll have to expand. There'll always be some money coming in. From the federal perspective, I think, and I believe, and right from day one, healthcare is a thing I hear a lot about. We are more like the dad that gives the money out, and then someone else decides, the province decides exactly where it's to go and what it's supposed to do. But I think, and I've always said, and I've said when I ran for the nomination as well, healthcare is, in my mind, is underfunded, and it's always been underfunded. When I see these people out here begging just to have a hospital, it's not like it's something we have to have, and it's something that serves when you're born and when you die and everything in between. You're going to the hospital, right? It's important, healthcare. So I've always said, and I will say that transfer should be larger. So how do we get there without charge? We give out money to so many places in the world arbitrarily, and we have some real issues here. We have some issues of homelessness. We have issues of drugs. We have seniors that have no money to get along. We have hospitals that like Stevenson is phenomenal hospital. What they do for what they have there is mind-boggling. It is, and in fact, it'd almost be better if they did a lousy job and we heard more about it, that people were out in the streets and you know what I mean, which is awful. Don't ever do that. But I'm just saying, in general. But I think we need to up that amount of money as a government, and cut back in places that we don't need. A lot of that, like I said, is we give $250 million to China for infrastructure. I have no idea why we're doing that when we could be doing it here. We have issues here we should be spending on to help people. So from my perspective, I've had meetings with Jody. I've had meetings with Sylvia. And I'm looking at it's tough from the federal perspective. We're hoping with the base there might even be a tie-in because I don't know if you know that some of the doctors, to get their hours, they've been working in the hospital there. So we're going to continue to work that hopefully if there's some kind of the funding rationale of something, or even if you build it in some way, the current government, if it's under a green energy program, we're going to try and come up with some money. But in the interim, I'm just, I promote the hospital like you do and tell people how important it is. And I'll give a shout out now that they have an event coming up this Friday. I guess we'll be on the air after that, but hopefully people, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, now more than ever, all of us have to continue to make sure we find a way, and I know it's tough, to support these organizations because they're there for us, and if we don't, the communities won't be why we're here. It really won't. So to me, it's really important. So I'm going to try, like I said, from my perspective, I got my guy. I was on a call with Jody last week, and my senior policy advisor in Ottawa, just saying, is there any angle from the federal perspective that we can help to move that ball? But I'm certainly, like I said, I'm behind them 100. I know you are 110% because I go in that hospital. I've been there. I broke my nose. I played hockey. And they are phenomenal. The staff there has been unbelievable. You may sit out in the middle of an aisle, but they're taking care of you. They're the best. And you're in and out so quick, and you just see the numbers and how well they've done. In the provincial, when they show the different averages, and to see what they do in that small hospital, it's amazing. Is mind-boggling. And you know what? They do a great job, and everyone that works there, what I like, are so supportive and want to see it grow too. You know what I mean? Like I think half of them would give their paychecks to put the money in that actually work there because they're just so proud to work in that hospital. So for sure. Hopefully people continue to support all their programs and all the businesses out there. If you support their businesses, hopefully some of those businesses will support the hospital in their endeavor. But I know you're the same. You realize how important healthcare is, and I'm sure certainly in your podcast, and I just know you walking around the streets that you'll be pushing the hospital as well. Because it's, to me, again, like when you look at the age of that hospital and you look at the growth, and now we just got an MZO, I seen down in Beaton that there's going to be another big, all these people are coming, and it just makes absolutely no sense to me that there shouldn't be a tie-in to that increase in population to have a guaranteed factor to know that the hospital will continue to be successful. And that's, to me, it's shocking that it's never, it's mind-boggling.
Jody brought up something in the podcast, and I love the idea. It just makes total sense, right? But he was going to go over a deputation and have brought this up, but the development fees for developers. Tie in some money into the development fees.
That's the development charge. That's exactly what I'm saying. Those development charge. That goes to your roads, your hospitals. Every town does it on every house. That is the way to
should
go.
Be. Like,
that's what we talk. To me, it's a no-brainer. To me, it's one of those things that
and developers will be happy
because they usually end up donating money at the end. But at least you can plan for the growth. You know exactly. Okay, it goes into a bank. The town does it, and then all of a sudden they have enough money that they have to build. You know what? Another fire hall because we have X amount of people here. We have to be an X amount of time. But you know what? Hey, look, we got the money saved up because as we grow, it's here, and we don't have to go cap in hand like the poor hospital has to go. Like it's unbelievable, cap in hand, just trying to get whatever dollar they can get. And good people that are on the board, like I can't believe those people. They don't get paid anything.
I know.
And they just work and work and work to try and get these buildings off the ground. And for me, I think it's our governments on all levels not realizing and putting enough into the healthcare itself because we need healthy people. Like it should be tied into your growth. Like if a subdivision's coming, if you don't have the healthcare for those individuals, we're not doing our part. We're not doing our part. So we should change the way it's done. And the development charge for me was always the one that I brought up years years. They can tell. They asked Jody. And why the province won't is beyond me. But if not, like I said earlier, I still believe the federal government, in the role that I'm at, we don't put enough money into healthcare.
Gotcha. Man, this has been a blast, Terry.
It's fun. You know what? It's great. As soon as I knew it was you, I was wondering at first when it came through to my, wondering who was doing this or this podcast. I didn't know you were in the podcast business, and then I said, "Well, I got to go see my friend Antonio. I got to show up for sure." I'm glad I did. It's certainly a lot of fun. It's great to see you're looking fantastic. You're a lean machine.
Thank you, man.
It's unbelievable.
Thank you, man.
Hey?
Thank you, man. It's this community.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. Listen, in case I missed something, Terry, you're the type of guy I could go on with you for hours and hours, and you're so passionate. Did I miss anything? If there's something you want to say, something you want to focus on. I know COVID is the big subject.
Yeah.
We all know that, but stage is yours. You have something to say?
I would just like to say, especially, I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. We're going into the Christmas season. Two things. Number one, look out for your neighbor. Make sure, like I said, there's a lot of issues out there. People are stressed. Help your neighbor. And the second I'd say is the local businesses here. I know you got your BIAs and your chambers, and I've been on a lot of calls with them. They're having a tough time. They may not tell you that. They may not show you that. They're proud people. So do your best. A lot of people are ordering stuff online. Seems to be the new thing to do.
Yeah.
But if you want these businesses to survive that are out there, we as individuals need to do that effort. Do your social distance. Wear your mask. But you know what? Get out there and support them, because they are the ones that support, like where we are here today at the centers. It's the local businesses that really make our community. So that can't be lost. And I stress more than ever. Do your part, get out, and try and help them weather the storm until things get better.
Thank you, Terry Dowdall. When we go blue, okay, this man, candidate you're still going to come on the show, being a minister?
Oh, I would always come on your show. Are you kidding me?
Oh man,
For sure,
oh man,
for sure.
oh man.
Maybe we can go on. Maybe we could actually have you on the road and you come to Ottawa and do it.
Oh, I'd love it. I'll do that. I'll do that. I love it, Terry. Our MP, Mr. Terry Dowdall, amazing. Thank you so much, Terry, for being on the show. It's been a blast. You know what? Instead of MP, I'm in your case, MP, Mr. Perfect. Here it is, right here. Okay, all right.
So I'm going to give you the phone number for my wife, because you can call her, because that title won't last long.
All right. Terry Dowdall, thank you very much. We'll see you on the next episode of TNT Weekly. Thank you for listening. Over and out.
Take care. All right. That's good.
Bam.
That's good, eh? It's covered. Time flies, eh?
Hey, tell you,
Time flies, eh? It's unbelievable.